Boys.
Land Rover, sponsors of rugby union on ESPN.
Thanks.
You'll need to be in possession of a sharp, long-term memory to recall the last time Harlequins won a Premiership game here at Kingsholm. 14 years have passed since the champions last achieved the feat, but ending that sequence would go a long way to getting their title defence back on track. Gloucester need this one badly too, which all points to an extremely gripping Good Friday night ahead. And to steer us through it all, we have a man not adverse to a hot cross bun or two, and a man with some terrible advice on shortcuts to take if you're stuck in traffic on your way to Gloucester. Evening, Nicholas.
Oh, Dirty, you need to get yourself a sat-nav. Evening, everybody. The half a dozen Aviva Premiership fixtures we've got to look forward to over this long Easter weekend. I think we're well within our rights to be really excited about the next 3 days and what they have to offer. 4 sets of regular season matches to go. So much still to be sorted out. Times really for teams to be finding their best form. And a bit like Harlequins, Gloucester was several notches off that against London Welsh last weekend. In fact, it was probably the worst backs performance of the season. The one change they've made amongst the strike runners does nothing to harm their all-English look, with Mike Tindall making way for Henry Trinder at outside centre. The pack rescued them a week ago. Hooker Corey Britton's reward for an impressive contribution off the bench is a first-ever Premiership start. Lokatui, Savage and Dunguera are all with the youngster from the off. Really was a most un-Quins-like performance against Saracens, and it's no surprise Conor O'Shea's had a bit of a shuffle, particularly with their Heineken Cup quarter-final with Munster just over a week away now. Chris Robshaw heads the list of absentees this evening, a list that also includes Monnier, Williams and Turner Hall in the backs, and for Asavalu and Tom Guest with Robshaw from the pack. Tom Guest withdrew late on feeling poorly. Joe Treyfoot makes his first Premiership start, while Jack Clifford's promoted to the bench ahead of what would be a Premiership debut.
Yeah, Corey Britton's game time in the Premiership this year has been limited to 8 appearances from the bench. As a result, his line-out success stats are a little bit low. He'll relish the chance of throwing into the pack that's been practising together all week. At the scrum, Knight needs to continue scrummaging for longer than with most opponents. Marler catches many off guard with his resurgent drives after the ball has come in. A real heavyweight bout in the engine room. Robson was a little bit quiet by his standards last week, so he'll be looking to correct that tonight, and he'll be delighted to get the 7th sense of his old familiar partner Ollie Cohn back. Cohn's ballast arrives just in time to face Jim Hamilton, one of the strongest scrummaging locks around. The Scottish lock had another good Six Nations and must have put himself right in the frame for a Lions place. Partnering Hamilton is Gloucester's latest Tongan powerhouse runner, but also an astute line-out operator. And Chris Robshaw's rest tonight gives us another opportunity to see the outstanding Luke Wallace, fresh from his Land Rover Discovery of the Month award. His breakdown skills and carrying game have been vital to Harlequins in the absence of their skipper, but in Dunguera he matches up against one of the league's most consistent performers in those aspects of play. Callum Ofoni versus Easter is all about the hard yards and offloading.
And into the backs and the half-backs, Kerr and Evans will look for more control, and more than 60 minutes being taken off together is a sign that things aren't going that well. Their form will be crucial this evening. Burns, well, he can do anything in attack, but you do feel defensively he will be tested this evening. And tested he will by the hard running of Casson. In the midfield, he carries well for Quins, and probably the reason why he's been brought in. 12 Trees and Trinder's selection suggests that Gloucester are going to really try and attack with width, and Trinder with his left foot step can create something from nothing. The battle of the back three is really advantage to Gloucester. May is as sharp as they come, as is Sharples. That's very close into his names of his name, but these 3 guys and Cook's kicking ability could carry Gloucester home.
Ben and Austin looking at those who are starting. Other replacements, there's a lot of youthful potential on the Quins bench. Just wonder how Gloucester's more experienced set of reserves, though, might affect the outcome ultimately. That's for another hour or so. Nick Easter in the absence of Chris Robshaw. Robshaw's regular deputy this season. This is the 9th time he's led the team out. Champions looked tired, strangely out of sorts last Sunday. They've been given a shake-up, fresher faces brought in this evening, trying to arrest the slide that's seen them fall out of the top 2 for the first time since the early stages of the season. Victory this evening would reclaim 2nd place from Leicester. Leicester away to Northampton tomorrow. Quins have played a full part, you might remember, in one of the games of the season here a year ago. They were edged out in a match of real quality by half a dozen points. And as Mark's been saying, it's been an age since they won here in the league, although they did chalk up a notable win in the Heineken Cup here a year ago. Jim Hamilton, moments like this, I guess, more and more to cherish for him as the move to France gets closer and closer next season. Moments to lock away in the memory banks. It was around this time last season, you might remember, that Gloucester's form and playoff ambitions really began to disintegrate. That they're back pressing again 12 months on is a real tribute to Nigel Davis, all the coaches here, and of course to the players. They've really reinvented themselves this time round. JP Doyle in charge. Good news for him this week. He's been awarded a couple of Pacific Nations Cup tests in Canada in the summer. He's back on the IRB's list of top referees. Kevin Stewart, Stuart Terridge with the flags, Jeff Warren with the zapper. And on a potentially pivotal weekend when the top 6 in the Aviva Premiership all play each other, we kick things off under Kingsholm's Friday Night Lights. 5th against 3rd, and when both of these are on their beach lounges over the summer, they might look back on this evening as being one of the big evenings. Easter gets us underway, and immediately it's driven forward over the 10-metre line. Burns to Cook. Sharples up in support to help clear the ball. Burns to Hamilton. Takes it beyond halfway. Gloucester working hard, having initially won the ball back from Quinn's intriguing little restart. This is Gloucester still with the ball in hand. Maybe not for much longer. That was a big hit from Joe Marler. He's juiced up his hairstyle this evening, and partly as a result of that big hit, Buchanan can bring the ball forward, but Ollie Cohen's going to be brought back. But what about the kickoff, Ben?
Yeah, Gloucester know that Harlequins like to send runners down the middle, so they put a little block in. You can see Calamafoni, it's intended that Billy Tweltrees is going to catch that. Doesn't quite manage it, so Britton clears up. This is a big hit from Marler. Leg drive, down low, and then he just continues going forward. As do the rest of his support players. That results in the turnover.
He'll be up for a big game this evening. He's had a tough fortnight or so, grappling with Adam Jones in Cardiff and Matt Stevens at Allianz Park last Sunday. But he's made a very big and emphatic start. One or two injury concerns about Jim Hamilton before this match. They were just checking on his fitness. He was fine to start, but they might be keeping a closer eye on it now.
I know with Jim Hamilton, though, that he'll only come off if he really can't continue. And the toughest players about. What he does add to this team is an enormous amount through the scrums. Knight and Murphy performed well off the bench a few times for Gloucester, and when they've started, it's going to be a big battle, this area. Big finish. Knows exactly what he's going to do, run straight over the back line and just keep those legs driving. Dips his shoulder and lifts in contact, and just that movement of the shoulder pulls the man away enough to get the leg drive going. I'm sure Nigel Davis will be pretty disappointed with some of that tackling, though.
Yeah, it came from 2 of Gloucester's best attacking players. Freddie Burns created the space first, and then Trinder missing the tackle. Offer so much in attack, those 2 guys, but defensively always targeted by the opposition.
So a list of the top overseas point scorers. We're aware that Shane Dron played for the Saxons, but we're giving honorary membership anyway. Nick Evans closing down on the 2 of them. Remains a 5-point score, but Quins have weathered the early storm well.
Yeah, just to show you very, very quickly, Freddie Burns, we spoke before the game about somebody stepping out the line. I'll come back to it later. They've run forward, Gloucester, for the kickoff, but I'll show you it in a bit. of how he creates the dog leg, which allows Quins through the gap and that man to score eventually.
Really good technique from Buchanan, using that forearm as a fend to just create that extra space so he could get his leg drive going.
So Gloucester doing really well to create a little bit of confusion in the Quins ranks as to where that restart was going to go. Whole posse of Quins players ran across to the left at the last minute. Freddie Burns put it back from where they'd come from. And this is the net result. Burns giving the ball some air to Cook. Sharples just outside him to the right.
Good defence from Easter. He came in on a blitz defence, knowing that Callum Mahoney wanted to take that step out on the outside line.
Burns, 12 trees. Back with his club after spending the Six Nations with England. Johnny May.
He's got to be careful, Freddie Burns. He's throwing a lot of long looping passes. We saw Nick Easter come close early on.
7 up part of the tackle.
Gets to those wide channels and likes to throw the ball over the top, but all it does is it just closes the space for the outside wingers. They hate that sort of ball.
Into touch, point you were making earlier, Austin.
Yeah, here's the point I was making earlier, which led to the try. Freddie Burns, we spoke about Quins doing this. He steps forward, creates the dog leg, isolates Ngira. And as Cassins comes through, the offload's really quite easy. Look how big the gap is. Lowe retains possession. Oh, no, doesn't, sorry, knocks on possession, but that led to the scrum, and then they went on and scored the try.
In stop, Quins.
They've got to sort out that defence, Gloucester. As Quins have certainly come to play, Nick.
They go long and they find Easter. Trying to rescue that maul that was being driven back initially by Cherry and White defence, but Quins put the anchor down. Picked up by Wallace. And the ball was there to be taken, and Sean Knight said, "Thank you very much." And Guerra finding Burns. Here goes Trinder.
Don't play 12, Rook.
Will James took the hit. Robson screaming for it, and Guerra eventually clears it. It's interesting from Burns. Finds touch.
It's a good result for Gloucester. It all comes from a turnover. We'll come back to that if we can, but this is such a high-tempo game. They've gone already.
There's a real pace to it as Brown took it quickly up to the 22. Evans.
Don't go forward.
Yeah, this is the turnover. Luke Wallace does a really good job of getting some leg drive, and they latch on, but his support players don't do a good enough job of staying over the ball. Locaturi comes through, and Knight says, "I'll have that," and then they're off and playing.
I think it was just okay.
It's having to do without Wallace in this latest line out, and James did just enough to tip the ball back towards Robson, who found 12 trees through the hands of Burns very quickly to Trinder, and this is May. Ball back inside to Savage, but May was just in touch.
Fantastic tackle from Chisholm. He was really had to work hard. Brilliant play, actually, from Gloucester. You look at the decoy runners that come through the midfield. They get the ball into Burns' hands from 12 trees. That wide pass isolates the width of Harlequins, but then Chisholm has enough pace, and not many have, to get to May on the outside. This is a textbook winger tackle in the wide channel.
Really good cover back on the inside as well.
Defensive line out wasn't clean, but it was eventually swept up by Buchanan, whose attempts to link up with Robson weren't entirely successful. Here goes Rob Cook. This is Sharples. He's got 12 trees beyond him. Sharple screaming for it. 12 Trees had seen him, and Rob Brown came in with the hit. Looked as if the pass was going to come in from 12 Trees. It didn't, but this is Angera. And there's a wave of noise carrying the Fijian towards the try line.
Use it!
Quins have defended that brilliantly, but on 2 occasions there were high hopes.
Again, the quick line out. It's through the hands, question mark whether this one might be forward.
Yeah, now Sharples gives the ball out to the wide channel. You can't quite see him, but he's pointing for the kick. He wants the kick now. 12 Trees thinks about it, but gets isolated. Ball in the wrong hand, and boom. That is a big defensive 15, last man tackle.
Brilliant by Brown. He lets go, thinking he needs to get back in. Just have to be slightly careful, but I think that would have been a harsh call.
He's busy reacquainting himself to life as a fullback at the moment. Played for England, of course, on the left wing during the Six Nations.
Yeah, as I said, as Sharples goes to the wide, look, he sees he's broken, now he's pointing, he points, kick, 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 he's looking for the kick, his left hand's up, he's in if the kick goes in. He's beaten the cover. Well, that needs to be a good kick, but not difficult, not easy when you're at full speed. It's been an exciting start, Nick, hasn't it?
Oh, it's just been breathless. Both sides said this was the kind of game they wanted to play, and they've been as good as their word. Both sides already looking so much better, so much sharper than they were a week ago.
Important scrum now, 5 metres out. Harlequins just need to get the basics right. Gloucester have been going early to try and win that hit and keep going on Marler. That's what they do this time. They've got the timing right. Easter does really well to give his teammates time to recover.
It was a monumental shove. Evans with absolutely no time at all. He's happy to get the ball anywhere. Doesn't find touch. Cook will bring it back. He slipped before Marler could make the biggest of hits. Gloucester will have the scrum.
Take a step. First 2 guards.
From the knock-on. Should nothing come of this advantage. Savage back to 12 Trees. And JP Doyle signalling that the advantage was now up. Robson, Burns. Buchanan got back.
No rook.
Here goes Akapusi Angera. Lua Lokatui. So again, Gloucester building with accuracy. Burns did so well to pick the ball up, but then took a clattering for his pains. Such a battle for possession here. Robson to Lokatui, that was brilliant. This is Corey Britton. Johnny May was involved in the build-up, but this is the Cherry and Whites fizzing somewhere near their absolute best with the ball in hand, and Quinn's defence is being tested.
They had numbers, Gloucester, if they could have got round that hinge defence from Harlequins.
Burns gives it some room. First Calamafoni and then Angera, and now Savage. Joe Treyfoot needed to be there amongst those manning the ramparts for Harlequins, but this is incessant pressure at the moment. Dan Murphy, man of the match against London Welsh a week ago.
This ball needs to come wide, there's an overlap.
Trinder. Tackle from Buchanan, he's putting in a shift defensively at the moment, the man who's scored the only try so far, and it will remain the only try because the kick from Billy 12 Trees was not sympathetic.
Brilliant endeavour from Gloucester. They are creating opportunities, they're trying to keep the tempo high, run the legs out of Harlequins with their short turnaround, only 5 days. Keep that intensity up. Every time there's a chance for a quick throw in, they're taking it.
Need to restart inside his own half, not now. Marler with the hit. Burns. Admitted that he didn't have his best game against London Welsh a week ago. Didn't control the direction of the game as much as he would have wanted to. He really needs to up his performance this evening, and the signs are that he is early on. As are this entire Gloucester team. Look, an entirely different proposition to the rather pallid affair against the Exiles. Picked up by Murphy. Taken on by the early replacements, Will James, who, if you're just joining us, was on very early on for Jim Hamilton, who wasn't really fit before the match started.
It's all been Gloucester attacking-wise the last couple of minutes, but the line speed of Harlequins is really good.
Way to Sharples. Indication of how much work Gloucester's backs are doing that May and Sharples are very often in close tandem, despite the fact that they ought to be positioned on opposite sides of the pitch. Penalties coming. Quins defenders not rolling. Robson tried to go through that guard position that Ben and Austin talked about before the match, but there was no room, so they will have the penalty.
Yeah, Harlequins have been a lot tighter in that area.
2, a trapped you in your own player. Roll, please.
Guys, quite interestingly, that's the first penalty that's been given at the breakdown. Look at how lenient JP Dawes. This is a stone-cold penalty for Harlequins earlier on, but he's very lenient at the breakdown. He's letting the breakdown go on for long periods of time. That's the first penalty he's given to Gloucester, and actually it's been slowing Gloucester's attack down and allowing Quins to read the referee and pile a load of people and slow the ball down at the breakdown.
I didn't think that was a penalty. It looks worse in slow motion, but Marler didn't target the ball. He just thought he'd done enough by getting his arms around the man. You've got to actually pull the ball up. But he is, like you say, he is a lot more lenient than a lot of referees at the breakdown. I think he's refereeing well.
I think there's a lot going on in there that a lot of other refs wouldn't deal with.
Freddie Burns wasn't at his best on a blustery day last weekend against London Welsh, but enough points that day to push him beyond 200 in the Premiership, and he's got his first 3 here this evening. Oh my goodness, not just how much in Harlequins' half, but how much in their 22. How hard they are having to work defensively to maintain that lead provided by Rob Buchanan's try. Beautifully taken restart from Savage, skippering the side now in the absence of Jim Hamilton. That was well taken by Brown as well. Brave in the air to claim the ball. Casson, Wallace, a little bit of space to run into. He was hauled down by the halfbacks. Burns and Robson. Taken on by Lowe. Care to Evans. Ollie Cohen was running, but no one was running more than Smith. Well, how simple was that? Can't go through the defence, go over the top of it, and Sam Smith cottoned onto the kick.
So clever from Evans. He pre-calls it about 10 seconds before. He sees Robson's on the floor in the tackle on George Lowe. Spots the opportunity, no sweeper in place. Huge attack. Looks like it's off the cuff, Nick, but it's certainly not.
Yeah, Casson and Lowe both on this blind side, which is why Smith was in midfield. He knew exactly what he had to do. He was flat, he was ready for the kick. Knew exactly where the ball was going to be put.
It's worth another look. Sam Smith's enjoyed his recent sightings of Cherry and White. That's his 3rd try in as many games against them.
Doesn't matter where that territory map shows the play of the game's been. Harlequins have been brutally efficient when they've been down in Gloucester's 22.
Well, I was thinking there wouldn't have been many teams so far this season who've made so much of so little in terms of the meagre resources that Quins have had, but they've got some defending to do now. Ball was thrown back inside rather hopefully from Trinder, and Kerr linking up with Treyfoot, and then Marler might try and profit from it. Here goes Wallace. Trayfoot was there again to release the ball. Working hard, the youngster. And then Casson clattered Burns late, and JP Doyle's seen it.
He says it's fine. The man was in the air a long time. He jumps. He's off. He can't move now. For me, that's fine. He's entitled to go to the charge down. He just hangs in the air. He doesn't change direction.
He's a prop. There's nothing I
Gloucester
can do.
fans don't like it.
Yeah.
A rare break
Well, I think he jumps up the
so
prop,
far,
yeah.
gives us
And
an
then-
opportunity
and
to
then yeah.
let you know where we're going to be on Sunday. Irish against the Sharks. Neither of them absolutely sure yet of Premiership rugby next season, but that's a biggie for them.
Clear release, okay? Clear release.
We're back with the Cherry and Whites and the Sharks next Friday night. There's Joe Marler.
Yeah, big man.
I think he's juiced up his hair this week. I don't remember it being quite as peroxide blonde last Sunday. Let's have another look at this, Austin. The try.
If you have a close look, you look
Let's
at
keep
Evans. He's
working on
already
that.
seen it now. Look, he
Timing,
spotted it.
squeaky clean,
He's
right?
called it, and then he executes it. Great fly half play.
Try him on. Crunch!
It's just one example. The club are so thrilled that he's signed his recent deal that'll keep him at the club until 2016. He's nearly 36 by then.
Great offload from Calamafoni under pressure.
Hamilton to Burns, linking up beautifully. This is Sharples. May again, wasn't far away. Tackled from Casson. Whatever flakes of rust Gloucester might have had on their hands and their handling play a week ago, it's been shaken off over the course of this week. They're playing some fabulous stuff. It's hard to believe that
Leave two now, yeah.
they're 9 points down. Mark of Quinn's defence and the quality of Quinn's attack. The efficiency that the visitors have shown so far. But in terms of threat, with the ball going forward, Gloucester have been at the races as well, just not so much to show for it. Here goes Robson. Jimmy Cowan out for the rest of the season. Here goes 12 Trees, running into Johnston.
Knock on, advantage over.
Burns.
Go 10, go 10.
Not quite such an effective kick from Gloucester's number 10.
Good
Fired
clearance.
long upfield, yeah.
Okay. Saw that Cook was taking a while to get over to that touchline, knew he had time.
We need. Two for each team.
Not been an awful lot
Two for
going
each team
through
now, we're marked
Nick
up.
Evans's hands, as you can see there,
Marked up.
but the possession he's had, hasn't he executed well?
The key statistic is 27 bits of possession against 5 so far. As you say, Ben, what Nick Evans has done with those 5 bits of possession. Well, that was overthrown by the new man Britain, and Buchanan rather throws Burns away here. Taken on by Easter. This is Trayfoot, but that's been lost, and now Gloucester can come away with Trinder. Robson into space, but there's no,
No
Cherry and
chase.
White chaser.
Inside.
This man was Dan Murphy. He ran past 12 Trees.
Smith was derailed by
Use
the
it.
outstretched hand of Calamafoni. Evans comes straight through the middle. Trayfoot to Kerr. He's got Trayfoot back inside to Casson, and if Casson had cottoned onto it, he would have scored. Penalty's going to go against Henry Trinder. Heard the warning. Taken quickly by Kerr. They've got lots of numbers up. Oh, ball was knocked backwards and low scores.
You can't check that. You can't check that.
Now,
They're asking for
He can
whether
check
the
that.
early tackle
Not on the has to be a
came
save.
in.
Can't go for that.
He can check that. If it leads to a try-scoring opportunity, he can go back. Prevents foul play.
I understand that.
It almost certainly was a tackle before the ball. I'd be interested to see it. As he goes through, Danny Kerr, it's a nice little break. Look at the offload here. Chisholm, is he taken early? Oh, it's close, isn't it?
You won't see that.
He's on him before the ball's there.
You can see it as well.
Yeah.
Come on, next job.
Did the ball go backwards off a Gloucester hand as well?
Exactly.
Have another look at that, just to make absolutely sure. My initial instinct live was that it might have been a Gloucester hand. We'll have another look at that. A couple of reasons why Harlequins might be a little bit dischuffed with the last 30 seconds. Anyway, doesn't matter now, they've got a scrum to concentrate on.
Boat moving, but it's boat moving. I need you steadier, I need you steadier.
Right, let's have another look at this. Is it 12 Trees who comes in to make the tackle? Does it? I'm sure we're going to see it here. Oh no, I think it comes off Chisholm's hand. Chisholm's got the bandage around the hand, and it is his hand.
Oh, I'm not sure again from that angle. It's a tough one, Nick. Well spotted through those welder's specs.
Again, a real battle for the ball in a critical area. Burns, Trinder, he knew exactly where May was. Skipper Savage.
Use it!
10 minutes to half-time. 12 Trees. Gloucester always looking for space. Oh, the ball's still in play, and it's picked up by Sharples. Oh! Kevin Stewart, the touch judge on this near side, clearly saw the ball clip the line. We'll see here.
Spot on.
It's a good spot.
And I think we're going to see also Robson might come off. Got injured just before that try that Quinn scored. Spotted by Nick Evans. He's going to try and carry on, but he's been struggling for the last 10 minutes.
The physio's gone over to have a word with the ref and saying it's one of the concussion checks off the field, so he can come back.
A good spot then. We may not see more of Robson.
The Gloucester fans think that wasn't straight, and they're dead right.
Easter bursting through. This is a game full of most things. Chisholm chasing it. Ball bounces over his head. It's picked up by Britton.
Really good cover from Britton. Hooker getting over there. God, it's just all action.
Take a step, 13, come back. Go back, go back.
Murphy calling for it. This is Calamafoni. Lewis. And then Burns gives it some boot. Sam Smith trots back, ball into touch.
We have a breather. Just every time the ball's taken into contact, people are finding their arms free, little offloads.
Austin, what have you got?
I just think that Danny Kerr's been sensational so far. He's obviously had a talking to, but not just in attack defensively. Look, he makes the tackle there. He's been missing those all season. Look at his work rate. He goes across the field. He's at full tilt. He doesn't give up the chase. And again, he's in hard, trying to rip out in the tackle. It's just an example that shows what he's been like. He made a tackle in the midfield on Johnny May before. The guy that I've been quite critical of his defence has really stepped it up. Last weekend, I think he will have had a bit of a talking to. He's frustrated and he's gone out and answered in the best way with a good performance so far.
Yeah, he's enjoyed the benefit of an extra week's reintegration with the club this week.
Brilliant from Nick Easter as well. He's made a couple of breaks, picking and going through the middle. This time he's in midfield. Just keeps the legs going, gets the fend off, and then realises where the space is. Takes as much as the yardage as he can, then puts the little nudge through for the pace of Chisholm on the outside. It was just all on the bounce of the ball, which wasn't favourable to either team.
Mike Tyndall was readying himself to come on because Henry Trinder was down injured. There were some Gloucester players in the wars in this first half. Lost Hamilton, lost Robson. Keep an eye on Trinder. It's gone long, and it's picked up by Britton, who runs into Evans.
Leave tree.
Pulled back by the new scrum half, Lewis. 12 trees. Edging his way backwards into the 22. This is Sean Knight, second game back for him after a knee injury that kept him out for a couple of months. Here goes Lewis again. He's back off down the M5 to rejoin his former club Exeter the end of the season. Here goes Knight once more. Timely return for him, with Rupert Harden out for the rest of the season now. Trinder back on his feet to Sharples. Lewis to another replacement early on, Will James. He came on after 5 minutes for the skipper, Jim Hamilton. Lots of changes that Gloucester have had to digest, but it's not affected their fluency, and there's more of it here with Angera, tackled by Robson. 12 trees running hard, and for as hard and as purposefully as Gloucester have run, Quins have defended just as well. Chisholm was chasing. May skipping. Here goes Trinder. Oh, what about that from Trinder to James, and now James finds Cook. Where's the support? Does he need support? Rob Cook! Oh no! He forgot to take the ball with him.
Did everything. Apart from the last stretch.
He must have been looking around for support, and in the excitement to look for mates who might help him out, he dropped the ball.
Which bit of that do we talk about?
That was amazing. This pass from Trinder is why I come to watch rugby. That is class.
It wasn't just out the back, was it? It was out the back and round the corner. Brilliant footwork from Cook. Beats the man on the inside. He's got it. Oh.
The players are out on their feet. There's a saying that we shouldn't really say, blowing out of your... But it's not the normal channel that comes out of at this stage. Guys, that was a brilliant passage of play.
It's really interesting listening to Rob Cook talk this week, because his natural instinct is to run with the ball, but when he arrived at the club at the beginning of the season, he thought he just needed to temper it a little bit, because there are so many flyers around in front of him, just to concentrate on the nuts and bolts, play a bit more of a prosaic game. But we saw a glimpse there of the talent that Rob Cook has at fullback. He's not just about a bloke who positions himself beautifully, who catches the high ball, who kicks like a mule. He wove some magical routes towards the try line just then.
So much space on the field, isn't it? Some of that's being created by one of the criticism of England's wingers, was that when they had the ball one-on-one with their defender, they couldn't knock them off balance with some footwork. So plenty of that from the likes of Sharples, May.
Buchanan finds Cohen. Casson bouncing ball, never controlled it. Year-old making his first Premiership start this year, ahead of Jordan Turner-Hall.
Timing much better on that last one.
Nigel Davis, who has done some job this season to instill a new culture here and at Hartbury, the training base, but the way they're trying to play and what is inviting them to try and achieve as rugby players.
He's been quite inventive as well. He's getting his best players. We look at the scrum now. He's got Johnny May stood on the left-hand side of the scrum as the first receiver. Big attacking weapon. Great left foot step. This will be a difficult tackle for Danny Kerr if they go down that channel. And likewise, they've got equal attacking flair with Freddie Burns here.
Callum Mahoney
kick it into touch.
to give it to Lewis on this near side, and
What a rubbish game this has been.
the best laid plans. Yeah.
But if you're a back, Nick, and you've got a midfield scrum, and you know that everyone on the field is now shattered after a 3-minute passage of play, I'm telling my scrum half, give me that ball or I'll come and kick you. You have to have those attacks. They're the best times to attack from.
Talking about Nigel Davis and what he's brought, there's a real balance to Gloucester's play. Yes, they attack wide, we know they do that, but in Calamafoni, Lokatui.
Here goes Kerr, enormous hole. Smith's with him. Kerr's going on his own. Treyfoot's there. For all we're talking about Gloucester's quality, look at the scoreline. Look at the scoreline. It's Quins who scored the 2 tries, and they're bearing down on a third here. I'm not entirely sure that that was how Lokatui intended to stop the ball, but he did, and he's drawn the penalty. So much to talk about, so much to try and take in from this first half. It's been an extraordinary first half.
Just a huge hole for Danny Kerr off the back of the line out. Tail gunner Murphy, I think it was, who just got caught in trying to take out one of the big forwards when he was the tail gunner off the back of the line out.
It's perhaps worth noting as well that we've only had 4 penalties during the entire game so far. It's something to do with the way JP Doyle is letting the game run. Austin wondering whether we might perhaps ought to have had more penalties, but you...
Yeah, well, I think we should have had more penalties, but it's all they've all played their part, the mindset of the players. JP Doyle's allowed it to flow a bit, and we've got a great spectacle.
Are now taken off the back by Lokatui. Here goes 12 trees. Back at Kingsholm as a test player after his debut in the Calcutta Cup. Started against the Irish in Dublin. Penalty coming. Picked up instead by Dan Murphy. Keeping his place ahead of Nick Wood this evening. And we'll come back for that potential kick at goal should Gloucester go for it as Marler and Will James get involved. Will needs to be careful, he's a big cheese these days. He's the chairman of the Players Union. Can't get involved in that kind of stuff. Will, got a reputation. Lead by example, for goodness sake, man.
Yeah, Marler, that's the second offence. Lying flat on the ball, the boot comes in to try and clear it because he's had a little play at it. Marler takes exception. Bit of handbags.
He's been spitting fire and brimstone this evening, Joe Marler, hasn't he? The frustration of the last fortnight against Wales and then Saracens. Tony Diprose and Conor O'Shea. Lots to digest. Freddie Burns to chop the lead to half a dozen. Well, he missed his fair share a week ago, and well, that was a banker really for somebody like Freddie Burns.
Just to go in half-time, 12-6, and say, look, we've played at a really high tempo. Harlequins won't last. We'll pull that 6-point lead back in no time.
Final 30 seconds. Evans goes long over halfway. Here goes Cook. Already warmed our feet in Harlequins' defence in one spectacular run already this evening, but Harlequins have taken back possession here. Kerr with Lowe cutting back inside, and he's cut through a large hole. Now can Lowe get the ball away? He might not need to. Tackle came in and it needed to be a good tackle in the end, but still options there for Harlequins. Harlequins saying that the ball was kicked away illegally, but JP Doyle was happy to allow them to come away with it.
And Gloucester got away with that. They'll take it and they'll attack from here.
Burns really wound up that throw. Going to come back for the penalty.
Next to post.
I think
Another break. Brilliant turnover from Wallace.
Wow, that's the end of the first half. What do we say?
Well, so much to talk about. When you want to do this job as a commentator, you want to come and see things that really shock you and make you go, wow, that was amazing. And we had so many of them in that half. It had intensity in the tackle, great individual pieces of skill, but moreover, mindset of players to go out there and play rugby. I cannot wait for the second half.
Yeah, the gaps are only going to get bigger, aren't they? As the players tire more in the second half, particularly Harlequins with that 5-day turnaround.
A couple of tries, though, both of them for Harlequins. Rob Buchanan and Sam Smith, no idea what Ben Morgan and Durders are going to talk about after the...
And I think when the game's as enjoyable as it is, you can see, the referee's buying into it's quite open, very few penalties at the breakdown. He's letting both teams play, and I think you get your energy from the fact that the ball's in play, both sides of the ball. So, yeah, there'll be one or two missed tackles, there always are in the second half, but hopefully if we can just keep performing the same, then the result will take care of itself.
Well, you're smiling at the moment, Mark. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, Ara. Thank you.
No changes to either team at half-time. Those changed in the first half. Hamilton and Robson both being replaced early on by Lewis and James, but it's as we finish the first 40 minutes. Here goes Marler, who was back to his fizzing, spitting best, or something near his best in that first half. Burns, Cook, who provided one of the highlights with the run, and then one of his lowlights with the dropping of the ball. But how about that from Evans, sliding over the 10-metre line. Kerr to Casson. This is Buchanan who got the party going with the opening try early on. Mike Brown. This is Joe Treyfoot. Just his 6th league game. Played less than an hour of Premiership rugby before this one. Something significantly to that statistic this evening. George Lowe, rather stop-start season for him as well, not helped by injuries, I guess, but he's playing now, and this is Brown, and Quinn's starting where they left off, and it wasn't far away from finding Luke Wallace, but Burns was there, and now it's Gloucester who can come away. Sharples around the outside, around Evans, ball back inside to 12 Trees. Opportunity still there. Savage on the burst. Lockatoo is looking for it. It's picked up by Knight. Here goes Burns. One long ball. Cook with the quick one out. May! And this game gets better and better and better. And finally, Gloucester have some early reward in the second half for all their first half adventure.
I knew this half wouldn't be as good as the first. What a start. We've just had some of the best offloads you'll see, and then it ends up really good decision by Burns. Goes high. Cook checks his step just to make sure he doesn't get caught man and ball by Brown. Gives the ball, and then May knows exactly what's coming, so he just puts the brakes on. Wrong foot, Chisholm. This is Easter's offload. Looked all good for Harlequins at this point, really good, but then his number 8, opposite number, Callum Afoni, wants to get in on the act as well. Look at this. Brilliant out of the back door, and then it just goes really quick hands. The pace of Sharples to beat his man on the outside. Evans is no slouch, keeps the ball alive. He's just got everything this game.
Would slot the conversion as well. Just a couple of points in it. Gloucester 10, Harlequins 12. 3 tries in the match so far. The bare statistics barely do justice to what we've seen, though, and Gloucester are making some early changes. Huir Edmonds is coming on, taking the place of Corey Britton. Change at loose head as well. Dan Murphy. And also Sean Knight. Yep. They've changed 1, 2 and 3. And they brought on Edmonds, Wood and Kistolini. 4 minutes into the second half. Why?
Well, because you can always bring them back on if they get injured. I think Harry Edmonds this game's really suited for him. Open, good runner with the ball in hand. It's a no-lose situation for Gloucester.
I'm not questioning why they made. I just wonder why they didn't make it at half-time. Why 4 minutes into the second half?
Because jelly babies taste a lot nicer at half-time. I agree. I've no idea.
But it's a lapse of concentration, perhaps because of all the changes, which meant the ball was spilled at the kick-off, and now Harlequins have a go.
Well, those changes haven't affected Gloucester's scrum. That was a real shove. And Easter was scrabbling to win it back under pressure from Ongera and James as well, trying to hold him up. A little bit of help from Trayfoot. Quins get the ball to ground. Here goes Evans. This is Casson. Lowe was up in support. Sam Smith spits the ball out to Brown, but it was asking too much of him. Chisholm was there, though, in support. Dancing feet from Chisholm. He loves this ground. Remember the try he scored here last season. Kerr to Evans to Casson. Johnston was there, but it was Easter instead. Here goes Wallace. Wallace still going, up to the 22.
Staying on their feet, the Harlequins forwards as they carry, just getting those extra couple of yards to knock Gloucester back. They can't get the line speed they want.
Low with Chisholm offering himself. Instead it's Brown. Smith wasn't far away, but he's got some clear out to do here if the Londoners to have the ball back, which they do. Buchanan runs into Calamafoni. Kerr to Trayfoot. Rob Shaw, Fasavalu, Tom Guest, all missing from the back row this evening. Joe Trayfoot stepping up. Here's Easter, who always steps up. 18 carries against Saracens. He's adding to that list here in Gloucester tonight. Kerr to Buchanan. Smith's there. What a spirited response this is from Harlequins.
Great play by Danny Kerr to miss out the first couple of runners, create that extra space on the blind side.
And he nearly scampered through. The advantage is still Harlequins. Buchanan's waiting. Kerr issuing the instructions. It's not going to Buchanan, it's Smith instead, who's held up by Kistolini. Kerr snipes on his own, but was always going to fall short.
Offside 10.
Dave Lewis was making sure that his opposite number wasn't going to go through, but will come back for the penalty.
I lost him in the first half. He's been a real live wire in the second half. See here, he just misses out the first couple, the two big second rows, just creates that extra space on the outside, and if Buchanan had been at more pace, he could have gone through the hands. Again, he tries to scamper underneath the guard defender, almost gets there.
In Gloucester's defence there, that looked like obstruction on a couple of occasions. One with Wallace in the outside channel, and again there with Ollie Cohen going short and taking out a defender. Decision could have gone either way, but it's such an open game, you've got to expect running rugby.
JP Dore just saying to the Gloucester forwards, let the Harlequins player land before you go in. It's a move around the front.
Robson hadn't landed before he'd got the ball away to Easter. It's a little bit messy, but they still have the ball.
Use it.
Trayfoot being ordered into the wide outside by Kerr. Here goes Marler. The ball's been stolen back.
I think it was Hoya Edmonds just stuck in there and came up with the goods, and the clearance kick's good. They relieve a bit of pressure. Straight onto the ball, he's entitled to attack it, Edmonds. Down really low, and he's already got the ball before he's taken off his feet. He's entitled to dump it back on his own side. Brilliant by the Australian hooker.
Right on the line, JP. Yeah.
Buchanan put everything into that.
It was a mile not straight.
Here goes Casson. The ball's been picked up instead by Ongera. Gloucester in the end getting their just desserts, getting possession, but they've not held on to it long as Lowe rolls towards halfway. James tried to dislodge possession. Edmonds was there as well.
Even the knock-ons are spectacular. They're all coming because of big hits.
Yeah, I'd say
or when guys half get through a hole.
Statistics being turned around. Harlequins have had much more possession, but it's Gloucester who've scored the try.
Time off, please. Time off.
This is the throw we don't think was straight. And it's just always getting those hands half through the offloads. And Gira reads it well. He's tackled with the ball.
Again by Danny Kerr coming across.
First time we've seen Ollie Kern in the Premiership this year. First time since his 7-minute debut for Wales against Ireland at the start of the Six Nations. He tore a hamstring in training the week after. But he's back to add some ballast to Conor O'Shea's pack this evening.
They've missed him, haven't they? They've really missed him, I think, in terms of physicality around the field, weight at scrum time.
He's one of those undersung heroes in the Saracens pack. Ollie Kern.
The Harlequins pack.
Harlequins pack, yeah. He's on his way to Saracens, there's an exclusive. Burns. Henry Trinder, he's not really, just in case any Harlequins fans are worrying. Flicked away by Lewis. Back to Burns. He's fully up for this battle this evening as well. Runs into Robson.
Oh, sensible by Kerr. Took his time. Looked for the space. Not sure why that wasn't an advantage to Harlequins. It looked a pretty decent kick to me.
Time off.
We're hearing that Nigel Davis isn't happy with the way Gloucester are playing at the moment, with some aspects of the game. Most of us watching are utterly enthralled by what we're seeing, but he's seeing it through the eyes of a coach. Danny Kerr won his 41st England cap off the bench in Cardiff. Is bound to add to them in Argentina. Unless he's picked for the Lions, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, maybe, that...
I think he saw a team that Richard Hill, everyone likes to pick their Lions team, Richard Hill had put him in as his starting Test Lion, so there's obviously some people out there that think he's worthy of a place.
Austin, what are you seeing?
I've just been watching Danny Kerr. He's on the wrong side of the scrum. It's their put-in, which what it should mean is he should actually be stood over on the far side, over here, putting it in, but he's not. He swapped sides, which isn't illegal. But what it means is that Gloucester have one less scrum half defender coming out to this channel, so you'd expect Brown, really, who stood here, to try and go all the way through. We're waiting to see. They've lost the ball at the scrum.
That's extraordinary. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Just get through the tunnel.
Just to keep it simple for the time being, you normally put the ball in from the other side.
Well, you normally put it into the hooker can hook with his right foot, but they don't hook anymore.
It's not the only thing, that the scrum before, Ollie Cohn was behind Marler, and now he's on the right-hand side, so they're changing everything all the time, the Harlequins pack.
He's gone back now. Interesting, though, they've shown us a lot of new moves that maybe over the last few weeks, as you get to the, the dull part of the season, you don't use, you save for the end, the business end.
Well, that might be something that was concocted in the fertile mind of John Kingston, the Harlequins scrums coach, who thinks about scrums as much as anybody.
Well, in terms of the second row,
the thing is, it's not illegal. You can put it in from either side of the scrum. So it actually makes a lot of sense to move it around, especially if your hooker's no longer lifting his feet and you can feed, which referees are allowing people to do now.
Well, that's just fascinating. Was that what Paul Moriarty was complaining about? It'll be really interesting to find out. Might set Sarah on the job, see if she can find out. That was a conventional put-in, and it leads to the penalty.
From low standing up, from low standing up. front row standing up.
Here Edmonds wanders back a little ruefully. Harlequins, by the way, preparing to bring on Joe Gray and Charlie Matthews in the second row. Gray on the left. England Saxon about to be sprung off the bench this evening. He started against Saracens. Set to take the place of the try scorer Rob Buchanan, and see who Charlie Matthews comes on for. Maybe Ollie Cohen. He's not played much recently.
There's a lot to be said, Nick, when you get to this stage of the season for changing things up, doing things that the opposition have never seen before. As long as you're confident enough and flexible enough as a side to do it, it really messes with their head defensively, as we saw then, bringing Moriarty off the bench.
Play on, Stu, is it? Play on, mate.
That easy ball for Buchanan. It's missed a couple. Marler just drives it forward. Now they're going to build a bit of forward play. The pick and go. And then a wide pass to Easter, who'll run an angle towards the defenders. Try and shorten that Gloucester line. They do a good job of wrapping around the corner, though.
Kerr. Evans. Lowe was offering himself, but this is Chisholm. Back in the starting lineup in a Premiership match. It's good to see after that horrible knee injury we saw him suffer against Leicester in September. We're hearing, by the way, that the reason for Paul Moriarty's fury was because he was saying that there's got nothing wrong with Danny Kerr putting the ball in from that side of the scrum, but if it's a reset scrum, he's got to carry on putting it in from that side. You can't then switch around the other side, which he may well have a point about. He's absolutely convinced he does.
I'm not sure which one.
I think it's one of those laws that most of us are going to have to read up on when we go home, aren't we?
Yeah, it's one of those lost behind the cushions of the sofa, but we'll dig it out. Meantime, Harlequins and Evans with this penalty, confirmation of the changes that we'd signposted a minute or so ago. Is fast closing in on 1,000 Premiership points. He's now scored 97 in total against this evening's opponents, and they're a big 3 points, stretching the lead again to 5. Chisholm claimed that confidently. Evans to Brown off his left cannon. Burns to Cook. Evans into Cohen. You can see Trayfoot trying to hold him up. "12 trees." This is James, very early on in the piece for Jim Hamilton. Fitness outs before the match, and he didn't last long. The point that JP Doyle was making there to Dave Lewis was that you can't throw the ball down and then go on a little gallop. Instead, they'll content themselves with the penalty. It's Joe Trayfoot, 22-year-old. It's kind of Kath Kidston scrum cap, I suppose, isn't it? Popular in the parts. So, well, you don't live in southwest London, Ben, so you'd have no idea who Kath Kidston is.
Other pattern scrum caps are available.
There are also available, but
I don't know by who, but they are.
It's one of the great products of the academy system at the Stoop, getting his chance this evening. This is an important kick, and it just drifts away. What are you laughing at?
I'm so buying you a Kitson man bag next week.
So you'd know where to get one of those as well.
Why don't you just
I already got one.
Give me that
I don't want it
tablecloth that
anymore.
you've got.
I don't want it anymore.
Evans.
Interesting kick-off.
Yes. Well, it nearly worked, but in the end it didn't, because it was picked up by Calamafoni. Taken on by Lewis. Evans tried to come in with the big hit. Bouncing ball only taken in by James, but Gloucester are being shuttled back towards halfway.
More called. More, you can use your hands.
Now it's Kerr to see what he can do. Pace of the game unrelenting. It won't noticeably slow.
6 off.
And Ross Chisholm has the ball. Kerr, oh, that was beautifully done by Trayford. It was just in the end a little bit too much for Joe Gray.
Line out scrum.
This is what Austin and I were talking about before the game, and Harlequins have tightened it up massively. Strange kick-off. And then around, look, they've got their 2 guards, bodyguards in place, so as they come round the corner, that move's blocked because they're much tighter, the line speed's good.
We're talking about Joe Trayfoot. Another youngster's come on. Charlie Matthews has replaced Ollie Cohn. He'll have enjoyed his introduction to the fray this evening. He's into the second rope.
Touch. Set.
Taken off the back by Calamafoni. Burns just rescued the ball in time as Evans sprinted on, ever hopeful.
8 roll.
Penalty against Easter. They've been thumbing
8 roll immediately. Then
through the laws, by the way, and Paul Moriarty, not surprisingly, was absolutely right about delivering the ball from the same side of the scrum if it's a reset. Not that we were really arguing with him. Here goes Brown, still going. In the end it was Savage who stopped him. Here goes Wallace, resuming his LV Cup role while Robshaw has a much-needed rest this evening. Robshaw will be back for the Heineken Cup quarter-final against Munster next Sunday. Low. Interesting to see what role Jordan Turner-Hall plays next week. What the composition of the midfield looks like. That's for another day. It's a big, big game to be closed out here going into the final quarter.
The Harlequins getting numbers on the outside, but the line speed from Gloucester's so good in the midfield, they can't quite get out to those men.
This is Trayfoot, who has stood up well. First time we've seen him from the off in the Premiership. Easter. Fascinating to see the Premiership's hardest working HGVs bumper to bumper tonight. Easter and Calamafoni, the 2 great carriers. Evans. Oh. Hit coming in from Gloucester's truck, Calamafoni. There goes Evans again. Oh, Wallace couldn't hold on to it. Sharples could. Still escaping the clutches of eager defenders. Austin.
Well, just another good example there of Wallace at the breakdown, and what he's doing, he's slowing the ball down, and that's just as well, because you look at the blind side there, Quins are so vulnerable there. They've got 3 attackers, Gloucester, but it's turned over. Quins are putting a lot of players into the breakdown. They've given away 2 penalties so far for it. Nick Easter 1, Wallace the other, but they've realised that they can get away with a lot, and they're hampering Gloucester's continuity from it.
Mark Lambert coming into the front row. He's replacing Joe Marler. What about Luke Wallace, by the way? I've noticed this morning that he's been named the Land Rover Discovery of the Month, which, if you're wondering, is the award for the best under-23 Premiership player of each month, and he's got it this month as much for his work in the LV Cup. Lifted the cup earlier in the month.
Reset, no binds on either side.
He's a good player, Nick Wallace. And I think when you look on paper and you look at a stereotypical back row, you want a player like that. You want a 7 that you know is going to be in every breakdown, and almost that it gives you a little bit more than Rob Shaw does.
Did you see the try he set up for Tom Williams in the semi-final of the LV against Bath? That little acrobatic flick out of the back of the hand. It was Trinder-esque. It was just magnificent.
I wonder who Conor O'Shea maybe next season wants to play at 7, because Chris Robshaw moving to 7 was really Stuart Lancaster's call. Stuart Lancaster said, I'd like to see him play a bit of 7. I think he could be the future for us there. He's obviously done very well with England, but particularly in a club game as well, having that out-and-out 7, you could easily play Robshaw at 6. It must be hard for Conor O'Shea to think, when can I move him back?
Some good options, and we've seen from Joe Trayfoot this evening that they continue to clump.
14, Gloucester!
Trinder, over the head of Brown. This ball was a little bit disobedient, but Brown brought it eventually under control. Tackle was made by Trinder inside his 22, Danny Kerr, so he was within his rights to find the kit men and the advertising hoardings, and Johnny May takes a little bit of a tumble.
You've got to go back. I cannot let you go.
Here we go.
A bit further, back a bit further.
Oh, looking for the law book.
Nice of everyone to support him and come and help him.
That was Danny Kerr's last act, having now been replaced by Carl Dixon. Had a very good game, Danny Kerr.
Yeah, very good. He's coming for a bit of criticism. Defensively, I think he's shown tonight his hunger. Not just him, but Quins as a whole. Even if they don't go on to win this match, they've certainly made a statement.
Confirmation of Gloucester's change at fullback as well. Martin Thomas on. Rob Cook off. The pace in the game, though, remains the same with Thomas on. And that was his first offering, and it draws the penalty. Oh, that could be dangerous, and Chisholm needed to be hit by Savage.
And he was hit. Huge tackle in the Gloucester 6.
Really good in the first half, guys are getting cleared away.
That's a loose pass.
You're winging yourself on your 12.
And Savage makes the decision, not even going to compete for that ball, but I'm going to be right there in his ribs.
Ross Chisholm is still counting them. Tom Savage, an interesting future for him, by the way. He's on the short list, I understand, to replace Jim Hamilton as the club captain next season. He was the club's youngest ever Premiership skipper at 23 against Worcester last month. They really like what they see from young Savage, not just on the pitch, but in training as well.
He's got a lot about him on the pitch, though. He's really good in the line out.
Let him work.
When needed, seems to read well as a lifter. There's a lot of the hard graft in and around the breakdown, and we're just in there his tackling ability.
Here's where we'll find out whether that 5-day turnaround has really cost Quins.
Flicked in by Edmonds to James.
It's a good initial riposte from Quins, but the ball's nice and safe at the back with Edmonds there. He's just staying in the pocket. Now he's being told to use it.
He released the ball to Lewis. 12 trees. Back to Sharples, but pass was so swift that Sharples took some time to bring it under control. Lewis. Driven on by Will James. Sense was set for the kind of finish that this match demands. Just 5 points in it. Just the one try in this second half. Scored by Johnny May right at the start of it. But Gloucester are pressing now through Wood.
Brilliant leg drive from Wood, but they don't get the quick ball they needed.
And that's why get the penalty.
Well, that's the third on the trot. It's a yellow card, that, Nick.
Okay. Any more now rolling? That was number 12. That's what it's for. 12 rolling.
It's the third ruck on the trot where the ball's been killed. No surprise the Shad's slightly aggrieved.
Not one of the quietest grounds in the world, is it?
Take your time. Time off.
It's brilliant leg drive.
Tom
Gets
Casson
through.
was the one who was eventually penalised, Ben, for staying on the wrong side
Yeah,
there.
you can see. Spot on. You've got to make an effort to move. He moves now, but it's too late. The ball's already tied up.
Lifter blocking. Quins. Let him
Call
run.
to go for the corner. They obviously think that they've taken a bit of the energy out of Harlequins' legs in that last drive. They want to stay here. They want to come away with 7 points.
The Wallaby, Huir Edmonds, goes long. Oh, that was arrow straight. That was double top. And it might lead to something very significant here. Woods digging for it. Edmonds comes in behind and picks up and goes on his own. Chistellini, the South African Italian, fancies it himself, but he's hammered back by Lambert. Lewis. Oh.
Yellow.
Oh, it was coming. Gloucester in their eagerness to win the ball back need to be careful. And that's the point that JP Doyle's making. They've got lots and lots of time, Gloucester, and Harlequins are about to go down a man.
Yeah, I know. It's Hooker, yeah.
It's Joe Gray who's going.
He's asking for the scrum. Nigel Davis wants to attack the extra advantage there. Here's the line out. They just bank on Anguera through the middle, and then they just put 8 bodies behind it and try and barrel him over the line. As Austin said, you use some of your best moves at this time of year.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So you want to scrum? Yeah.
This is going to take some organising, because I imagine that Rob Buchanan thought his work was over, but he's going to have to come back on.
What Lewis should also do is stand behind the scrum. So play Danny Kerr at his own game. Wait till the flanker comes off, decide which side they're going to put a flanker on as they bind down, and then go to the opposite side and put the ball in to take the 9 away.
It's Joe Treyfoot who's been sacrificed to allow Buchanan to come back in.
Time on.
East has gone to blindside.
That's a defensive scrum. Quins can't afford to put any of their backs in, so it is a genuine 8 against 7. And Gloucester, all the work with Tony Window at Hartbury. Another penalty, and I think there are a couple of words in the back of everyone's mind here. And if Gloucester can continue to control this scrum, then JP Doyle might be forced into a decision.
What Gloucester did there was they hit, and the scrum half was under orders to just to put the ball in, because we're just going to keep our legs going. Lewis there, in it goes as soon as he can, and they just keep the drive going. Harlequins buckle.
What Dixon should do now, Nick, is stand in front of Lewis. Get in front of him so he can't do that. Just knock him off to the side, just as the ball's coming in now. Move him away. Just pull him back.
Touch! Set!
And it goes again quickly. They've got the drive on. There's a man up in the middle, though.
It looked like it was Chistellini who came up, and Calamafoni doesn't hang around. Taken by Anguera, who reaches for the line and scores. He's just overtaken Olivier Azam as Gloucester's most prolific try-scoring forward, but you can guarantee that that fact won't be in his mind at the moment. The most salient point is that he's drawn his team level.
Well, the 2 Polynesian back rowers, first the Tongan Calamafoni gets the drive, and then Anguera's just got one thought. He knows where the try line is, and he almost lets the defenders make their hit in front of them. He rides the challenge and steps back inside where the cover can't get to because the ruck's in their way, and reaches for the line. Brilliant finish.
Simplest of conversions for Freddie Burns. The try from Anguera has Kingsholm alight on Good Friday. Oh, this is the way to start an Easter weekend. Wallace chasing the restart for all his worth, as is Chisholm, and Wallace was there on 12 trees.
Use it.
Into the final 10 minutes of a breathless game. May. Edmonds. Gloucester readying themselves to replace Ngera. I'm hearing that Andy Hazel's set to come on. Johnny May's down at the moment. I think he's got a touch of cramp. It's been that kind of game. Burns. Oh. Robson got his fingers to it. Chisholm was interested. Never reached him though because it was taken down by Lua Lokatui.
He's been good as well, Lokatui. Got through an enormous amount of work with ball in hand.
Evans. Brown. Absolutely critical 10 minutes in Harlequins season. Not lost 3 in a row in the Premiership since Conor O'Shea took charge 3 years ago. It might be terminal to their hopes of a home semi-final in the playoffs. Still a long way from guaranteeing their place in the playoffs. They know that. This is what the remaining 8 minutes are about from their point of view. Gloucester fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive as well. Could not be more perfectly balanced as Charlie Matthews adds his weight to it. Easter, who once again has not stopped.
Both number 8s have been enormous.
Evans to Lowe. Is there to be one more twist in a match that's been full of them? Match full of talking points, full of adventure, full of ambition. Dixon to Evans. Chisholm running up like he really fancied it, but the ball never got there, and Nick Wood was scrapping for the ball and making it difficult. It's eventually picked up by Sam Smith.
Can't run away from his support too far. There's a lot of cherry and white bodies there.
Dixon to Lowe. Harlequins happy to keep it close for the time being, to fight at close range, get 1 or 2 jabs out. Two teams have mustered now more than 200 tackles between them. Gloucester think they might be a little bit short on that far left-hand side. There was a little bit of concern that might have been realised if Casson could have hung on to it.
That passage of play had fatigue written all over it. I think the things are going to get worse because Gloucester just keep applying the pressure.
Trinder, if he can find May. May's got a sprint to the line, and then Wallace comes in, and Wallace has hurt himself. He's back on his feet now, but
Clash of heads.
Trinder's still down. Ball's been kicked away by Buchanan, taken on by Wood. Johnny May's down again. I wonder if he's suffering from cramp once again. Reminder that all this is going on with Harlequins a man down. Joe Grace watching on, serving out his yellow card. Where's Dixon going? Not very far. Sam Smith was well positioned, but he's wrapped up by Huey Edmonds, and the Australians on his feet again quickly to challenge for it, but not effectively enough. This is Casson. Here goes Brown. You wonder about the fitness of professional rugby union players. Just watch this.
Release.
Where there is a difference and where some of the kicks are just starting to take hold is there are some players who've been out there for all of the game and some fresh legs on there. We're just seeing some of the quicker guys slow down a bit in the back 3. Brown on this side with his hands on his knees as they turn over.
Dixon to Evans to Chisholm. Wallace up in support. He's still going, eventually hauled down by 12 trees. And now being driven backwards, and Freddie Burns trying to rip the ball away. Taken quickly by Sam Smith. Chisholm into the final 5 minutes. Under the lights on a Friday night at Kingsholm, it never disappoints. Low. Brown up to the 22. How hard Harlequins have worked to get this close. Evans feel that gaps have to occur just because of the natural tiredness, but mistakes now starting to come in. The ball was batted back.
Gloucester ball.
Gloucester can suck in some deep, deep breaths.
Batted it back.
Andy Hazel coming on, player who signed for the club 16 years ago now.
Just his sort of game, because it's gone so open. He's a real dog at the breakdown. He's got fresh legs. So when those players get a little bit away from their support and go to ground, he'll be the first man in on the ball.
Nick Evans making way for Ben Botica. Matt Hoppers coming in as well for Tom Casson. Angera makes his way off, having been replaced by Hazel.
What a game Calamafoni's had. Up against Nick Easter, they've both been monumental. Well, it's Angera who's coming off, but there's Calamafoni. Equal on the running meters game, but look at that, 16 against 10 carries. That is massive. Always looking to offload. Good tackle stats as well. They have been huge for their respective teams.
Outside.
Andy Hazel, by the way, has been here so long that he was part of the Gloucester team that lost to Harlequins in 1999. The last beaten in the league by the Londoners. In the days of Leonard and Wood and Thierry Lacroix banging them over from everywhere. That's how long ago it is. Unless they can do something in the remaining 3.5 minutes, that long Premiership barren run in this part of the world is going to go on.
First bind, tight head.
But one of those games that will live long into the summer holidays in everyone's mind who's watched it.
Bind high, keep your height. Crouch!
It's Gloucester scrum. Dave Lewis has the ball.
Set!
Dave Lewis absolutely within his right not to put the ball in until the scrum's steady. Oz, what have you got?
Guys, I'm just wondering why, well, whether this will prove fatal for Quins. That's a penalty. I think that's within Nick Evans' distance. About a 46, 45-metre kick. I just wonder whether they're going to rue that decision. Sam Smith went quickly and, well, you don't know, do you now, but they've tapped everything this evening, and all credit to them. They came here to play, but in the last 10 minutes, last 5 minutes, you've got to start thinking a bit slower.
Got to keep their field position, haven't they? Keep the pressure on Gloucester.
Well, that was one of the less straight put-ins in a season when they have very rarely been straight, and all chipped over the top. And Calamafoni. Brown beyond 12 trees, taking on Trinder.
Offside.
Dixon to Hopper. Penalties coming. Advantage still being played. This is Chisholm who goes beyond 12 trees, but not beyond Johnny May. Ball was
offside, number 10. Number 10.
chipped out of play by Kistolini, but we're going to come back for Burns offside.
It's in range, Oz.
No, this is too far, I think.
2 balls, time off. Ben's finished.
Botica's on. I don't think his range is quite as far as Evans.
We're trying to keep a track of what's going on here, but Joe Gray is back on. Rob Buchanan takes his leave, so Gray's served his 10 minutes in the bin. And that's young Jack Clifford, a Premiership debut for the England under-20 captain, who lifted the Six Nations trophy not so long ago.
Yeah, now if you're Harlequins, do you try and get the ball into midfield and hang around that area? Try and provide a drop kick as Gloucester bring on the experience of Mike Tyndall just when he's needed most to boss those troops in midfield. They steal the ball at the back of the line-out. Calamafoni again.
Into the final 60 seconds.
Oh, they've won it back.
Harlequins have got the ball back though. Dixon, Botica, Hopper's chasing onto it, but was much too close to the fullback, Thomas.
The wrong option. Had to keep ball in hand.
And and the Welshman fires it into touch.
You get the turnover. He thinks that gap's on that Nick Evans spotted before the game, but you can see the sweeper's in there. He kicks it too far. But you just wanted to keep it in hand and try and make force Gloucester's hand give away a penalty or give you a shot for a drop goal.
Joe Gray, Robson snatches it down. One final chance with the seconds having ebbed away. What happens over the rest of this match might depend on whether Harlequins have a home semi-final or not. Still yet to book their place in the playoffs. Gloucester are really coming up on the rails now. Northampton home to Leicester tomorrow. These are big, big days in the race for the top four. And Harlequins are on the verge of losing their third Premiership match in a row. First time for 3 years. Hopper determined that that won't happen though. Gloucester need to beware the penalty. Botica's been kicking brilliantly towards the end of the season, all season. Here goes Lambert.
Harlequins want to get back to midfield. Just
Gray.
need to be careful they don't go off their feet to clear out the Gloucester players.
Well, it has been that type of game. You wouldn't rule out even more late drama. Botica to Chisholm. Wallace was outside him. Hauled down in the end by James. Dixon to the indefatigable Easter, who has just again been magnificent as a low-loader all game, carrying the ball. This is a real danger zone now for the Cherry and Whites, and Kingsholm's gone quiet. They can sense the danger. Where's this one going? It's going Gloucester's way. A simply splendid game of rugby. A fine, fine game. And a win of some magnitude for Gloucester. They are bang on course for the playoffs. Quins, the champions, continue to slide.
Yeah, just brilliant game. We've been doing this for 3 years. That's probably one of the best games we've seen in that whole time. Conor O'Shea quickly onto the field to try and rally his troops. He demanded a performance from them with a short 5-day turnaround. He got that.
Simply sensational. That game had everything. It had moments of individual brilliance, high intensity, desire from players that have been criticised, everything that is great about rugby. We have seen what is possibly my favourite game whilst working for ESPN.
It's hard not to resort to cliches at times like this, and you're desperate not to. And as much as Harlequins have lost, they will still take so much out of it. Such an improvement on what we saw last Sunday against Saracens, but they have been beaten. They have, however, picked up a losing bonus point, and they've got to regather themselves for the Heineken Cup quarter-final against Munster next Sunday at the Stoop. But a game when every player played the fullest of parts. It is Gloucester's evening. Really, Harlequins should take so much out of that themselves. They've contributed so much to one of the great games. It's as simple as that.